Okay, let's dive into this, because what happened at the 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh wasn't just your typical seasonal transition. We're looking at a massive paradigm shift. What we're unpacking today in this explainer is a profound evolution in both how sports media is distributed to you, the fan, and how modern football teams are being built from the ground up. And we are going to look at this whole thing through the lens of the New York Giants' complete institutional pivot.
To really understand this shift, we have to start with a bit of a mystery. So, if you look at the macro trends of the 2026 draft cycle, the national viewership metrics underwent a very noticeable correction. Get this, the three-day event saw a surprising 12% decline in national linear viewers compared to the previous cycle. The broadcast dropped down to an average of 6.6 million viewers. So, the immediate question is, where'd everyone go? Did people just, stop caring about the draft altogether?
Well, when you contrast that 12% drop in the NFL draft with what happened in the WNBA draft held in the exact same month, the plot really thickens. The WNBA saw a massive 20% year-over-year surge, hitting a peak of 1.79 million viewers. This tells us right away that sports fans are absolutely still watching, but their viewing habits, they're changing. They're gravitating toward content with high individual narrative stakes. It totally begs the question, where are the hardcore localized football fans going if they aren't tuning into the traditional national cable broadcast?
The answer lies in the huge migration to FAST platforms. Now, if you aren't familiar, that's an industry buzzword for free ad-supported streaming TV. Fans are flocking to highly produced, localized, behind-the-scenes content. A perfect example of this is the New York metropolitan area, where NBC4 New York leveraged a strategic partnership to produce high-definition recap specials of the Giants draft. Instead of watching a generic national broadcast, fans are streaming exclusive war room footage on platforms like Peacock, Roku, Samsung TV Plus, and Pluto TV. They want the raw inside scoop on their specific team, and networks are completely pivoting to this all-access model to capture them.
Here is exactly how we are going to break all of this down today. First, we'll look at the new media playbook. Then, we'll enter the Harbaugh era, analyze drafting fast and violent, debate minivans versus Corvettes, and finally, look at how you actually win the offseason.
Section 1. Enter the Harbaugh era, a foundational culture shift. Let's look at where the macro media strategy and the micro on-field product collide.
Now, what's really interesting is the sheer scale of the brain trust that the 21st head coach, John Harbaugh, and GM Joe Schoen have assembled. Harbaugh brought in an expansive, almost unbelievable 38-member coaching staff. This isn't just a random list of names. This is an unprecedented level of veteran mentorship specifically engineered to develop their sophomore quarterback, Jackson Dart. You have former head coaches like Matt Nagy as offensive coordinator and Brian Callahan as passing game coordinator. Plus, you have Greg Roman as a senior offensive assistant. They are surrounding their young core with literally decades of NFL play-calling experience.
And they are doing it all under one core organizational philosophy, and it's two words, fast and violent. The Giants are totally shedding the volatility of their past few seasons in favor of the Baltimore model that Harbaugh knows so incredibly well. This means a heavy, uncompromising emphasis on defensive versatility and undeniable trend strength. They want a team that imposes its physical will on the opponent, plain and simple.
Section 2. Drafting fast and violent, the 2026 class.
So how do you actually build a fast and violent roster? Well, you do it through the draft. And for the Giants, the execution of this strategy actually started with a very controversial move. To get the draft capital they desperately needed, the front office traded away a beloved locker room leader, three-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, to the Cincinnati Bengals. In exchange, they got the 10th overall pick. This gave the Giants 2 selections in the top 10. Looking at this 7-man draft haul overall, you can see exactly what Harbaugh and Schoen were aggressively targeting: elite athleticism, youth, and above all, positional flexibility.
Let's look at their first pick at number 5 overall, Ohio State's Arvell Reese. This guy is a 6'4", 243-pound junior with sheer 4.46 speed. I mean, he is the very definition of versatility. In college, he split his time almost 50-50 between off-ball linebacker and stand-up edge rusher. The Giants' new defensive coordinator, Denard Wilson, plans to deploy Reese as a completely positionless weapon. Analysts are already saying that pairing Reese with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau gives the Giants arguably the scariest pass rush in the entire NFL.
Then we have the pick they acquired in the Dexter Lawrence trade at number 10, Francis Mauigoa out of Miami, and this brilliantly illustrates the team's absolute commitment to trench dominance. Mauigoa is a 329-pound elite left tackle, but get this, the Giants plan to slide him inside to right guard. Why? Because they need his mauling, tenacious blocking style immediately to protect Jackson Dart on the interior. It's physical, it's nasty, and it perfectly aligns with the new culture they're building.
Section 3. Minivans versus Corvettes, the fan conflict. Whenever you have a culture shift this dramatic, it's bound to create some friction. Let's shift our focus to the digital discourse.
The controversy centered entirely around the Giants passing on highly touted safety Caleb Downs. And not just once, but twice. When the rival Dallas Cowboys traded up to grab Downs at number 11, the Giants fan base absolutely lost it. If you look at the sentiment analysis across Reddit and Twitter, fans were using really visceral words like ass and soul-hurting to describe the emotional stakes of watching a division rival snag a premier playmaker that they felt really should have been theirs.
The fans actually created a brilliant analogy for this whole debate: the Corvette versus the minivan. Critics of the draft argued that Caleb Downs was the Corvette, a flashy, elite playmaker at a position of need that gets fans right out of their seats. Francis Mauigoa, on the other hand, was the minivan, a practical, boring, but necessary investment in the trenches. It's the classic struggle, right? Wanting the immediate thrill of a skill player versus the long-term structural necessity of an offensive lineman.
Section 4. Winning the offseason, the economic reality. This brings us back to the broader strategic and competitive context. How do the on-field roster decisions and the off-field media machine actually fuel each other?
First, let's look at the on-field reality. The Giants operate in the NFC East, which is an absolute arms race right now. Looking at the division, the Eagles pulled an A grade, the Cowboys an A-, the Giants a B+ to an A, and the Commanders a solid B. This division is brutal. The Giants' new, fast and violent rookies are going to face immediate, intense pressure. I mean, their 2026 schedule includes matchups against defensive juggernauts like the 49ers and Rams on top of their divisional rivals. They absolutely need this draft class to perform on day one.
But here is where the media strategy saves the day. Remember those high-definition WNBC all-access specials we talked about at the beginning? They have incredible return on investment. By monetizing this niche content with sponsors like Novartis and Crestron, the franchise is creating massive secondary revenue streams. But more importantly, it controls the narrative. Showing fans the behind-the-scenes war room footage really humanizes the front office. It explains the logic of the minivan pick and significantly mitigates that immediate fan resentment we saw online. It actively sells the vision of a sustainable winning program directly to the cord-cutting consumer.
Which leaves us with this final, truly crucial question to ponder. Does the NFL offseason actually exist anymore? Seriously, when a team's draft strategy is immediately converted into high-definition, multi-platform streaming content that controls narratives and generates revenue all spring and summer long, the lines are completely blurred. The thirst for unprecedented access has permanently transformed team building. It is no longer just about acquiring players. It is a monetized 24/7 spectacle. And that is a playbook every single team is going to have to learn. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you on the next one.